Hey guys, it's Brant here and I'm back and I'm doing another review today and I'm going to be reviewing KISS's second album, Hotter Than Hell. KISS was pulled from the road to support their debut album and to record Hotter Than Hell after they had only been on the road for about 6 months in support of their first album, the debut album that they had just released in February of that year, and they were pulled to go back into the studio in August of that same year in 1974, and they spent August and September of 1974 in the studio with Kenny Carter and Richie Wise again, the same two guys that produced the first album, except this time instead of recording in New York at Electric Lady, they recorded in LA. They moved all the way to LA in order to record the first album. They recorded the album in the same studio as the Rolling Stones, Fleetwood Mac, and Bob Dylan, and the album was released on October 22nd, 1974. Now, it only went to about 100 on the Billboard charts and was not certified gold until several years later. The album was certified gold on June 23rd, 1977. The album was originally supposed to be called The Harder They Come, and the album was changed to Hotter Than Hell after the title track Hotter Than Hell was written. KISS didn't take to the relocation to LA very well. It was a different culture. LA at the time was very different. It was coming out of the 60s. It wasn't like New York was, hard and everything, so it was kind of a little bit different environment for them. Paul's guitar was stolen the first day they were in LA, so that just kind of set the mood. But they settled in and they eventually grew to love the scene and everything, especially Paul. Paul was in the nightclubs. He hit the nightclubs a lot during this time that they were recording. Now, if you look at the front cover of the album, Ace's makeup, what you see on every picture, Ace's makeup is airbrushed. He had been in an accident and had to have surgery, plastic surgery on his face. And so there was some airbrushing. I've seen some photos where it's this side of his face. I've seen some photos where it's the whole top of his face. But so any photos you see on the KISS album with Ace's makeup, it's all airbrushed. Now, if you look at the photos on the back of the album, there's a bunch of photos, some pretty risque photos that apparently had an orgy. It was supposed to be a photo shoot that turned into an orgy, and everybody got drunk or wasted in some way except for Gene. Paul got really wasted. He documents it in his book. Gene documents it in his book. They document it in the book back there, Nothing to Lose. So that was basically where the photos from the back cover came from. The front cover was from a separate photo shoot. Now, this was the first album to have a commercial to promote the album. The first album had only had a radio promo, but Hotter Than Hell actually had a television promo commercial. This would not be the last time that KISS gets pulled off the road to record an album early. They also get pulled off the road early to record Dressed to Kill, but that's for another review. The Hotter Than Hell album has a little bit darker content than the first album does, and the sound itself is darker, murkier. I've heard it compared, people saying it's murky, muddy, sounds like it's coming through a pipe. A lot of people I've heard it criticize the sound, saying that they don't like the sound. However, I like the sound. I like the sound of Hotter Than Hell. It's still not my favorite. These recordings are still not my favorite versions of these songs. I actually still prefer most of the recordings off of the Alive album that was to follow. But I do like the sound of this album, the recorded sound, better than the original first album. The first album, when they recorded it live also, and they did basically takes all playing together. They had overdub and stuff like that, but they didn't do many overdubs. The second album, they took longer to record it, almost 2 months, and they did do more overdubs on it. It just sounds, even though the sound isn't quite right, sounds more complete to me. Now on this album, all band members do play on all the songs, except on Parasite. Ace Frehley plays the bass on that. So Gene does not play bass on Parasite, but other than that, all KISS members play on all the songs, and that's a trend that in later years they move away from. But anyway, let's get to the songs. Now what I'm going to do a little differently on this one, and I want to see if you like it. And if you like it, leave comments below. Instead of doing the album's review of the song in the track listings, track 1 to track 10, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 lists. I'm going to do my top 5 favorite songs from 5 to 1 being my favorite, 5 being my least of the favorites, and I'm going to do the 5 worst songs on the album, starting with 5 up to 1, and the number 1 being the song I like the least. I'm going to give the track listing first, so you do know what the proper track listing is, and then later I'm also going to give my track listing of if I could rearrange this album, if I was the producer and I could rearrange it and put the track listing that I would want, I'm going to have that. So to start off, this is the track listing the way it is on the album. It starts off with track 1 on side 1 for you album people. Starts off with Got to Choose, and then Parasite, and then Going Blind, Hotter Than Hell, and then finishing up side 1 with track 5 is Let Me Go Rock and Roll. And then flip the vinyl. Track 1 of side 2 is All the Way, then Watching You, then Mainline, then Coming Home, then Strange Ways. Now, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to do my top 5. And I'll tell a little bit about my top 5. So we're starting with number 5. My number 5 favorite track is Going Blind. And I know a lot of people don't like this song, but I do. There's just something about it that I really like. The song was originally called Little Lady, and it was a song that was written all the way back in when Gene was in Rainbow with Stephen Cannell. And it was originally called Little Lady, and it was originally renamed to Going Blind. Paul added the line, I'm 93, you're 16, although he's uncredited for it. And they did that back then. It's not like now where they do the whole, well, I wrote this song, and I arranged this song, and, back then, I've even heard interviews of them saying that it was all about getting the best song, and if somebody wrote a part or whatever, it would go uncredited, and it wasn't a big deal. Apparently, that's not the case anymore these days. Gene borrowed parts of Eric Clapton's Layla that he played backwards in parts of the chorus. My number 4 favorite track off this album is Coming Home. It was written by Stanley and Ace Frehley, and it was performed by Paul Stanley. Paul says he didn't actually write this song with Ace. He basically wrote the song based off an idea that was given to him by Ace. So once again, that's what he says now, but it's actually credited to Paul Stanley and Ace. I just like the way the song sounds and everything. I just like the verse and the turnaround in it that it has. It's a really good song. Rock and roll! My number 3 song that I like the best off of this album is Let Me Go Rock and Roll. This was written by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. It was sung by Gene. The original title was Baby Let Me Go. Simmons penned the lyrics during his lunch break during his day job in the early years of KISS. It's one of the few KISS songs where the lyrics were penned before the music. And it was demoed for the first KISS album but was left off. It was performed during the show supporting their first album. I like this song. It's just a rocker. I like it especially live, where they put in bass solos and extended guitar solos. The live version is a version I really like. So my second favorite song off the album is Watching You. Watching You was written by Gene, and it was sang by Gene. The music was written inspired by Mississippi Queen from Mountain. and from Rock Me Baby from Jeff Beck. This song was also demoed for the first album, but it didn't appear on it. And I really like this song. Just the lyrics in it is just, limping as you do, and I'm watching you, and everybody else is here watching you. It's kind of a stalker song. And so I don't know, that's not really the appeal to me. I'm not a stalker, but I just really like that whole, it's kind of creepy. Like I said, it's darker content. So I kind of like that, really like that. That's one of the things that brings this song out to me. That and the riff is just excellent. And so if you haven't figured it out by now, my number one song on this album, my favorite song on this album is Parasite. Parasite was written by Ace and performed by Gene. It was originally called Parasite Lady. This is a song that Ace brought to the band fully written, fully arranged. It was ready to go. It was one that he really worked on, and there was no arrangement and rearrangement needed. On some of Ace's songs, like Cold Gin, on Cold Gin, Gene and Paul claimed that they did help him rearrange the song a little bit, but this is one that was, by all accounts, brought fully ready to go to be recorded. And I just love this song. I love the riff. I love just everything about it. It's a badass song. I only wish Ace would have sang it. I wish Ace would have had the confidence in his voice that he did in his guitar playing, because I just love Ace's voice. And I love it when you hear him sing his own songs. It's really cool. So Parasite is my number one song on the album. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the least 5 favorite tracks on the album. And I'm going to start with the one that I can tolerate the most. And then we're going to work my way to the one that I don't like at all. Now, you probably already noticed there's some really good songs that people consider really good songs as their favorites on this album that have not made it to my favorite list. And I'm not saying that the ones at the bottom of this list that I don't like, I just don't like them as much as my top 5. Now, number 5 on my least favorite list is a song that I actually really like. I just don't like it as much as the other 5 I've already talked about. So you would say this would probably be 6th on my list, but it's 5 on my songs I don't like, and that's Got to Choose. Written by Paul, sang by Paul. It was originally called Who's Your Baby? It's just a really good song. I like the live version better. It's just there's something about this version. It's just, I don't know what it is, but it just misses with me. So that's why I put it at number 5 on this list, because I do still like the song. Now, number 4 on this list of the least liked songs is Hotter Than Hell. I may catch a lot of flack for that. It was written by Paul, sang by Paul. Paul wanted to write a song like Freeze All Right Now, but he didn't know how to end the song. So he came up with this kind of Black Sabbath kind of lick riff and stuck it on the end, and that kind of outroed the end out to the fade out. Like I said, it's just something about it. It's not the song itself. It's just something about, I don't like this version as much as I do on the Alive. And like I said, sometimes there's songs that I just don't like, and sometimes there's versions of songs I just don't like. And on this album, I don't really like the version of Hotter Than Hell. Now, number 3 on my least liked songs is All the Way. All the Way was written by Gene and sang by Gene. Gene started writing this song before the album was recorded. He had 2 verses written down but no title, and he finished the song once the recording started. It's just a song that I don't really care for. This is starting to get towards songs I don't really care for. I don't like the songs themselves. And this just, you just keep talking louder. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just don't really like the song. I don't like the subject of it, and I just don't really like it. And number 2, working towards the stinkers on my list, is Mainline. This is a song that was written by Paul and sang by Peter. And don't get me wrong, I really like Peter's voice. I do. He's got one of the best voices, in KISS. But it's just, he always just seems to not get the best songs. He's kind of like Ringo to me. I love Ringo, star of the Beatles. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. But I just never really liked his songs. This is like Octopus's Garden. It's like, it's just a song I don't really like. This was a song that was given to Peter after he demanded a song to be given to him for the record, or he was going to quit the band. And that's not the first time that Peter had done that, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. So yeah, so number 2 on my list is Mainline. So by process of elimination, we all know that leaves my stinker of the album. My number 1 song that I do not like on this album, I actually don't like it, is Strange Ways. Now this song was written by Ace Frehley and given to Peter to sing. The solo was recorded in 1 take, and Gene was rumored to have recorded a vocal on it before it was given to Peter. This is the song that had the 7-minute drum solo in it that Peter demanded to be in the song, or he was going to quit the band. He wanted his Anagata Davida, and they let him record it. But after Peter left, Gene and Paul stayed behind, and they told Richie and Kenny, hey, cut that solo. It was dull, and it was just drug on. And I would like to hear it. I don't know if there's any version of it out there. If there's a demo of it out there, maybe that exists. If you know about it, put it in the comments. Because I know there's a lot of stuff out there that I've not seen. I've seen a lot of stuff. Because I really dig and really research for my videos and stuff that I do. And I don't bring up everything, because these videos would be an hour long if I brought up everything. I just bring up the things I think are interesting. But that's one I would like to hear. If there's a demo of out there with that 7-minute long solo, that'd be kind of cool to hear. So that's it. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is my 2 lists, my top 5 that I like the best and my top 5 that I like the least. That should account for all the songs on the album. So what I'm going to show on the screen right now is my scores for all the songs. I didn't really give scores in my reviews. I just said what I liked and what I didn't like. So here's my score. Parasite has an 8. Watching You has an 8. Going Blind has a 7. Let Me Go Rock and Roll is a 7. Coming Home is a 7. Got to Choose is a 5. Hotter Than Hell is a 5. All the Way is a 5. Mainline is a 3. Strange Ways is a 2. So if you add all those scores up, you get 5.8. I don't like points, like point anything. I like for them to be round numbers, but that's not always going to work out. But that does make a little sense, because I do like this album just a little less than I like the first KISS album, which scored a 6. This is not one of my favorite albums. It may be in my top 10, maybe in my top 15. Somewhere around there. We'll see when I'm done. We'll stack them all up. Once I'm done reviewing everything, we're going to stack them all up and see where they all come out. But I would say, yeah, that's about right. A 5.8, a little under KISS, the debut album, is about right. Now, this is my track listing if I could put the songs on the album the way I wanted to. If I could build this album, I would have put Parasite first, followed by Hotter Than Hell, followed by Going Blind, put Mainline in there, and then finish out the first side with Let Me Go Rock and Roll, flip the album, start the album start the second track with Watching You, then Got to Choose, then All the Way, then Strange Ways, and then finish out the album with Coming Home. Well, that's it. That's my list, and that's my review. I hope I didn't piss any of you off too bad. But you have to remember, it's just my opinion, and you have your opinion. And I kind of picked that lineup from Andy and Amy over at Dark Ride Films. They're fellow YouTube people, and they have a really excellent channel. They do some Kiss reviews as well. You need to check them out. I put the link there so you can see them. But they also do some other stuff. They do some Misfits, and they do some Sam Hain and some really darker stuff. Typo Negative, which I'm a big, huge fan of. And so that's all I've got for you today. That's my review. Click on my face here if you want to subscribe. And there should be a video right here of, another video that you can watch if you want to see more of me. And I'm just going to go ahead and close for now, and I'll see you next time.